okay, let's try this again because we failed last week when we tried to do it. So let's give it another go. Everybody say it with me, okay? Here we go. We will not overreact to a win against North Carolina A&T. We will not overreact to a win against North Carolina A&T. We will not overreact to a win against North Carolina A&T. We will not overreact to a win against North Carolina A&T. We will not overreact to a win against North Carolina A&T. Totally gonna overreact to a win against North Carolina A&T because after what we saw last night at the Petersen Events Center, how could you not overreact to it? Jeff Capel said he's not going to overreact. I'm not Jeff Capel. You're not Jeff Capel, unless you are, in which case, hi, Jeff. I hope I don't say anything really stupid, but I doubt you're watching this. I assume everyone watching this video is not Jeff Capel, just as I am not Jeff Capel. And so guess what we get to do? We get to overreact to a win against North Carolina A&T, and that is absolutely what we are going to do on today's Morning Pitt here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. All right, it's Tuesday. It's the Morning Pitt here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit Pitt hoops after the Panthers crushed North Carolina A&T 100-52 last night. And somehow the final score and dropping 100 on North Carolina A&T and beating them by 48 and all the other stats that we can point to out of this game weren't even the biggest story, weren't even the clearest sign of dominance and the history that was made at the Petersen Events Center last night. You already know what that history was, but we're going to talk about it here a lot today and a lot of other things from that game. Of course, you know the deal. Like this video right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. This is where we put all of our Pitt video content, press conferences, interviews, highlights, these daily Morning Pitt videos Monday through Friday to give you a little bit of Pitt sports talk to start your day. Our weekly live show, we'll do that Wednesday night. That'll be tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. with me and Jim Hammett. Our post-game shows that we do after every football game, and we'll probably start doing a few after some basketball games as well coming up. Probably road games, but we'll see how the schedule works out and what we're able to do. But we do it all right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, and you don't want to miss any of our video content, and the best way to make sure you don't miss any of it is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Be a part of it, and then you will never miss any of our videos or anything else we post here, and certainly not our live streams, which I think are some of the most fun things we do. And we appreciate everybody who joins those and participates, and I apologize in advance for all the times I'm going to cough and clear my throat here because I'm still dealing with this cough and chest cold, and the fact that my kids have had it for like 4 weeks now makes me not confident about or not optimistic about how long it's going to stick around for me. But either way, I'm going to keep talking. I might have to turn my head and cough a few times, but sometimes in life comes a point when you got to turn your head and cough, right? 100-52. I think we all expected Pitt to beat North Carolina A&T, and certainly when we did our staff picks on Panther-Lair.com, the website below, Panther-Lair.com, we did our staff picks there, me and Jim Hammett, and Steven Gertz, and Matt Steinbrake, and Houston Wilson. There's like 5 of us. We all did our staff picks for the game, and we all picked Pitt to win. We all picked Pitt to win by like 20-some. Nobody picked it as a 100-52 game. And something I'm going to repeat over and over again, I'm probably going to say it a bunch of times during this show, and throughout the week, and I know I'm not the only person saying this, but yes, it was only North Carolina A&T, and we have to keep in mind the level of competition. We have to keep in mind the fact that they beat a team that is probably going to be one of the worst teams in Division I basketball this year. A team that won 13 games last year, returned none of its top 6 scorers, only returned 3 players who actually scored any points for them a year ago. And that's what they came in to this game, and they looked like it. They didn't look like a very good team last night. But here's the point. And here's what I'm going to keep saying, and here's what I think it's important to keep in mind, and here's what I'm keeping in mind, and I think what you should keep in mind too as we talk about this game and what it means for Pitt basketball. Pitt has played plenty of bad teams in these early non-conference games in the past. I mean, over the years, and I'm not just talking about like St. Francis, PA, or Nicholls State, or some of the teams that Pitt lost to. Like, I'm not even bringing up that. I mean, that's obviously the worst case scenario. That's the nuclear option when you lose those games. But I mean, year after year after year, they play these games in the opener, and they haven't scored 100 points in a game since 2016. So it's been 7 years since they accomplished what they accomplished last night. And what Carrington did last night, Bub Carrington did last night has not been done by a Pitt player in 25 years. So you may want to dismiss it as being, well, yeah, but look who he did it against. But a lot of really good and even great Pitt players came in the last 25 years and played games against teams like that and didn't do what Bub Carrington did and didn't do what that Pitt team did. They didn't get to 100 points. They didn't beat them 100-52. They didn't win. They weren't leading 50-15 at halftime, and they didn't have a guy post a triple-double. And you can run down the list, and we were having a brief conversation in the press box about who would have been the most likely candidate, as you think back over the great Pitt players of the last 25 years, because the last one was Ricardo Greer in the 1998 Big East tournament against Villanova. He had a triple-double. And 25 years since then, there hasn't been one until last night when Bub Carrington put up, what was his final stat line? You'd think I would have it memorized now for as many times as I wrote it and said it. 18 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists. And who would have been the most likely option from the last 25 years? And the first name that came to mind was Brandon Knight. I think he was a decent rebounding guard. Certainly the points and assists would always be there, or would often be there. Carl Krauser, I think, was a decent option. Levance Field's probably not going to get those rebounds. Maybe somebody like you remember when Jamel Artis was the point guard? I mean, he potentially could have, you would think he would have the skill set. I don't think Justin Champagnie really was going to put up 10 assists in many games. I don't know what his career high ended up being for assists. But there haven't been a ton of options along the way of guys you said, oh, that would have been a real triple-double candidate. But I certainly didn't go into last night's game saying, hey, I think Bub Carrington's got a shot at a triple-double. And even when he came out of the first half with 7, 7, and 5, I still was like, probably not, because 4 of those 5 assists came on Pitt's first 4 made baskets. And that actually, obviously his night ended up being a historic night for Pitt, just the 5th triple-double in school history. But the way Carrington started the game, right from the jump, he was awesome. And we talked about it a lot coming out of the exhibition game against UPJ about how well he played and how impressive he looked. And we wanted to see how he would carry it over into games, not playing Division II competition, moving into, Division I games. And obviously the next step will be moving into the, power conference opponents and then ACC and all of that. But right off the bat, 13 seconds into the game, Blake Hinson hits a 3 on a feed from Bub Carrington. Right after that, 30 seconds later, Blake Hinson scores on a fast break. Feed from Carrington. Then Federico gets a basket. Feed from Carrington. Then Hinson again on a fast break. Feed from Carrington. North Carolina A&T called a timeout at about 17:53. So 2 minutes and 7 seconds into the game, and they were down 9-0. Pitt had made 4 baskets, and Bub Carrington assisted on every single one of those baskets. Now, again, he would end up having one of the great nights in Pitt history, arguably, and maybe not arguably, the greatest debut by a player in Pitt history, and one of the best single game performances by a freshman in Pitt history. But even if he didn't climb to those heights, just starting off like he did would have already just further grown the legend and the reputation that he built from that UPJ game and the Georgetown scrimmage and the Spain trip and everything else we had heard throughout the offseason. I thought one of the best things Jeff Capel said and things he talked about after the game was when he was talking about Bub Carrington. And this really echoes something I kept thinking during the game. I said to people around me, we had conversations about it, and Capel said it as well, that Carrington was just always in control. He never looked chaotic or panicked. He pushed the tempo when the tempo needed to be pushed, but he was never out of control. He slowed it down when it needed to be slowed down. He was always in control of the basketball. He was in control of the offense. He was in control of moving things where they needed to be moved. He had a sense for when to drive, when to dish, who to kick to. Made very few mistakes, like 2 turnovers, 10 assists and 2 turnovers. He just, the feel for the game is just exceptional right now, because we've seen players come in with physical skills. And I don't know if there have been many point guards who have the size that Bub Carrington has, because he's big and he looks big on the court and he plays big. But I mean, the speed, the handle, the shooting, the passing, the ability to finish, the ability to knock shots down from outside. I mean, like, we've seen players who have a lot of these traits, or some of these traits, and we've seen players who are good at it. But not everybody's got the control that he has. That, I could bring up Jeff Capel's quote right now, but I mean, it was effectively like, he let the game come to him. He didn't force it. To which I would say, he forced it when he needed to. He forced it when forcing it was the right decision. And it's just remarkable to see a young player like him, a freshman, making his first start, playing his first real college game. And before you even get to the triple-double, just the way he played, the way he carried himself, and you can take it to the post-game press conferences too. And I don't want to read too much into these kind of things, but go watch the post-game press conference after, I think he came out and talked after the UPJ exhibition game, and watch the post-game press conference from last night. This is a kid who's cool, calm, collected, and mature. And he carries himself as such. And you can see it in the post-game, just like you see it on the court. That it doesn't seem like any of the moments he's encountered thus far have been too big for him. Now, he's going to encounter far bigger moments than he has encountered so far. Playing a couple exhibition games in Spain, a close scrimmage against Georgetown, an exhibition game against Pitt Johnstown, and a 48-point win over North Carolina A&T, where you were never down, you were never down at all. And at a certain point, your lead was never less than like 20 points. Those aren't exactly big moments. Not yet. But he's played in the big, he is, excuse me, he has handled the biggest moment yet really well. None of the moments, here's the best way to say it. None of the moments he has encountered yet have been too big for him. Right? And those moments will keep getting bigger. Florida Gulf Coast next Monday. I mean, Binghamton this Friday. He needs to follow up this performance. He needs to show that he's going to keep focused and keep the, not get loose out there and do all the, continue to do the things that he did so well last night. Florida Gulf Coast would be a challenge, and then, you move on through the schedule. You see what's out there. When they go to Brooklyn, when they have Missouri, they have West Virginia. And obviously, once you get into conference play, there are going to be bigger and bigger moments for him and bigger stages for him. But everything he has shown so far is that he's ready for it. And not only is he ready to approach that stage, but he's ready to take it and be the man. Somebody suggested, I forget if it was the message boards or Twitter or wherever it was, somebody said, is it possible that Blake Hinson is not our best player tonight? They said that during the game last night. And yeah, I mean, it's the truth. I mean, Bub Carrington was Pitt's best player last night. Hinson finished with 13 points, 8 rebounds on 5 of 11 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3. And we'll talk about him and kind of the fallout from that in a second. But I mean, he wasn't Pitt's best player last night. Bub Carrington was. And I don't expect that to be the case every game. I don't expect it to be the case on the whole season. Like I said, we did our staff picks and staff predictions on Panther-Lair.com. And for team MVP, we all picked Blake Hinson because, excuse me, that's the obvious choice. And that's who we expect to be the guy. And I think he will be the guy. But last night, Bub Carrington was the guy. Last night, Bub Carrington was Pitt's best player. He was the man. He played like the man. And he led them to victory with the first triple-double in Pitt history since 1998. The 5th triple-double ever in Pitt history. Just the 4th player to record a triple-double at Pitt. And again, to sort of echo some comments that Capel made and even Carrington made, it just sort of felt effortless. Like, I was surprised when I looked down at halftime and saw he had 7, 7, and 5. Capel said the same thing, you know? It was like, well, where'd all those points come from? Where'd all those rebounds come from? What? And it's great, too, that after he got his 10th assist, Carrington turned around and dropped a 3, and just for good measure, just to pad that point total a little bit. And I tell you, it was pretty fun to see the crowd react. There were a few crowd reactions that were fun. First, when Jeff Capel took Bub Carrington out of the game after he got his 9th assist, which, to be fair, there's a little bit of home cooking on the stat keeping there. I mean, he did. I said it, after the UPJ game. Hey, if you pass to the player who makes a shot, you should get an assist, and so I'll stand by that. But he passed to Zach Austin, and Austin took like 3 or 4 steps along the baseline before he finished the play. But Carrington got an assist for that one. Okay, I think he still would have gotten his 10th assist anyway if he stayed in the game. Regardless, he comes out when Capel takes Carrington out after the 9 assists. I mean, the crowd was like reacting. It was friendly boos. It was fun boos. It was all in good humor and whatnot. But people wanted him to stay in, and it was great that he got back in 20 seconds later. I don't know if Capel didn't realize or what it was. So that reaction was great. But the reaction, because there was 1 or 2 shots that were missed, where after he went back in with 9 assists, when he made a few passes and the shots were missed, but then finally Guillermo Diaz Graham got it done. But the 3-point shot, it like bounced off the rim, and the whole building was ready to erupt to celebrate this triple double. But they're waiting for this ball to actually see if it's going to fall through the net, and it ended up going down, and the place exploded. It was great, great showing from Pitt students last night. Before we get back to the more basketball stuff, great showing from Pitt students last night. I thought they showed up. They filled both end zones or baseline, all the baseline sections, and filled up the whole sideline, and it was great. They do need to learn a little bit more about sustaining the energy. They're going to have to work on their stamina, and their endurance, because even as the game sort of hit a bit of a lull for a little bit there in the first half, midway through the first half, before Pitt really went on a tear in the final 6 minutes, the crowd intensity kind of dipped a little bit. You got to keep that up. They need some of the old heads to come back and show how it's done. That when the other team has the ball, you have to be screaming the entire time, the whole possession. They were sort of slipping on that. But no, big time shout out to the students. The adults, the grown-ups didn't really show up, but the students were there in droves, in big numbers, and I expect they'll be there again on Friday night. A couple other things, not worried about Blake Hinson. Still ended up with 13 points. 5-11 shooting, not the most efficient night. 2 of 5 from 3, not great. But while Hinson was going 2 of 5 from 3, Carrington made 4 3-pointers himself. Ishmael Leggett made 1. Guillermo made that one at the end. KJ Marshall made 1. And Jorge Diaz Graham comes through with 3 3-pointers. And he finished with 14 points. He scored 12 of those in like a 10-minute span in the first half. And I said there was a little lull in the first half. It was broken. That lull was broken by Jorge Diaz Graham, who hit 3 threes and then converted an and one off an alley-oop, and just brought so much energy back into the place, and so much energy not just to the fan base, because it was some excitement and some actual action happening again, but to his teammates. And here's the thing about the Twins that I think, like, it doesn't translate in the box score. It's not something you can really put a value on. Maybe coaches would try to, but it's not something you can really sort of quantify. But their energy is just, I think last year's team fed off that energy, just having those guys around and what they brought every time they got on the court. You know what they were? They were almost like I'm an idiot. I'm drawing a blank. The brothers from Slapshot. They brought that kind of energy that the rest of the team was just like, yeah, let's go. I mean, those guys, we talked about it all season last year. Jorge and Guillermo would get knocked down so often because they were twigs out there, but they got knocked down so often, but they always got back up. Those guys got the snot kicked out of them so frequently by big guys in the ACC, but they always got back up. They never backed down from a fight and just kept going and going and going and going. And a few people pointed out on the message boards last night during the game that it's just got to be really frustrating to play against them because they're just all length and crazy and energy and bouncing around, and it's got to be so hard when they're defending you. It's just got to be frustrating to try to play through that, and I think the rest of the team feeds off of that energy. I really think they do. And I imagine it has to be the case in practice. I imagine those guys bring a lot of energy to practice. They certainly bring it to the games. And they brought it last year in the games when they were playing limited minutes. And this year, when I think they're going to play a lot more minutes. Guillermo played 14 minutes last night. Jorge played about 15 and a half. And I think those numbers, we'll see where they go from there. I think still figuring a lot of things out. But they'll play more minutes than they did last year, and I think they'll impact it even more on the court, in addition to the things that they're going to be able to do. I mean, Guillermo finished with 2 blocks and 5 rebounds and 5 points. Jorge had 14 points, 5 rebounds, 1 block, and then the 3 of 3 shooting from outside. So, I mean, they bring some of those things, but that energy they bring, I think it's infectious for the rest of the team. I think it sets a tone for the rest of the team that I don't know if anybody else really sets that tone. Those guys, I think the rest of the team feeds off of it, whether they realize it or not, whether they want to or not. I think Jorge and Guillermo really do feed this team with their energy, and it creates an element of chaos. I think having those guys on the floor, it's fun as hell to watch. Because they're all over the place and they're running as fast as they can everywhere they can get. They really don't dog it at all, and there's so much length that they're just arms flailing everywhere. These long Spanish arms just flying all over the place. It's hilarious to watch. It's remarkably effective as sort of a we're gonna bring the chaos to you kind of thing, and I think it's going to have a real impact on this team. I think it's already had an impact on this team. I think it had an impact on last year's team. And I think the impact will be even more measured this year, or more considerable, I should say, this year, because they're going to play more. And I think they're going to have even more of an effect on the game. So it's going to be fun to watch, and I think the team feeds off of their end. I really do. And when they have success, when Jorge started, getting hot and made those threes and then converted the and one, I mean, it was already, 35-15, right? And Jorge, they go to the media timeout, the under 4 media timeout in the first half. Jorge hits back-to-back threes. Now it's 41-15. And then 30 seconds later, finishes an alley-oop from Zach Austin and does it through contact. He converts a 3-point play. So it goes from 35-15 to 44-15. So now it's like a 29-point game. Just on him. And I talked about the explosions and people going crazy when Bub Carrington got that 10th assist. I mean, when Jorge Diaz Graham finished through contact on that alley-oop, the place went crazy, and his teammates went crazy, and the bench went crazy, and everybody went nuts, and it was a lot of fun to watch. And those are the kind of moments they can bring to this team that I think really get the team fired up, bring the team together, and create a whole lot of energy. So it's fun to watch. It was fun to watch last night. This just might be a fun season to watch. We'll see. They play Binghamton on Friday night, 7 o'clock, Petersen Events Center. See if a few more people show up for that one than showed up tonight. Or last night, as it were. But yeah, good night at the Petersen Events Center. 100-52. We'll see what happens from here. All right, lots of Pitt sports talk coming up this week on the Morning Pitt. We'll have more football stuff, more basketball stuff, recruiting stuff, whatever it is that comes up in the world of Pitt football, basketball, and recruiting. Of course, you can get all the coverage right there at Panther-Lair.com. Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. Get all of your Pitt coverage. And then right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Like this video and subscribe if you don't mind. I would really appreciate it. And I will be forever indebted to you. All right. Well, hope your week got off to a great start. Appreciate you watching this video this morning. Have a great Tuesday, and we will talk to you tomorrow on the Morning Pitt right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.